The structure and relationship of elements is a theme that plays through all art, whether it's music or building a building. In building, one brick can represent a single element of your song, whether that's a melodic motif, a drum groove, a specific lyric, or even a bar of 4/4 time. But a single element doesn't make a song. You've got to layer that element and start repeating it, and pretty soon you see patterns and structures start to emerge. But repeating patterns gets boring pretty quickly. The same thing over and over and over again just becomes background noise. So you start introducing contrast into the repetition, and all of a sudden things start getting interesting again. In music, this might mean altering your melodic motive with different notes or note lengths, or changing up the drum groove so that you don't have a predictable repeating drum pattern throughout the section. Then, as you start using contrast on the smaller scale to make your patterns interesting, bigger patterns start to emerge. And you can start balancing contrast and repetition on a larger scale to make even more interesting patterns. But be careful. If you use too much contrast, your listeners might not be able to pick up on patterns on the larger or the smaller scales. If you introduce too much contrast, it might start to feel like chaos. And chaos isn't a bad thing if the intent of your song is to make the listener feel chaos. But buildings have purposes, and they need structures to fulfill those purposes, and chaos can get in the way of those structures. Likewise, songs also have purposes, and we need their structures to reflect their purposes as well. For example, we like to sing to music, so the notes we use have to be in a range that the human voice can sing. Songs are telling stories, so the words have to be arranged in a way that makes sense. And we like to dance to music, so it's got to have some kind of a steady beat. Unless you're making choices to build songs that don't do these things. So what's the purpose of your song structure? Do you want your listener to feel cozy and intimately connected in a quiet little space? Or do you want them to be in awe of how massive your drum sounds and synth sounds are? Likewise, do you want to write a song that's missing rhymes in certain places to throw your listener off balance because it's telling a story about an unstable relationship? Or do you want all the rhymes in exactly the right places so the listener doesn't have to think about the rhyme relationship and can just get a lot of information? As you're working on your songs, remember, all the elements that you're putting into place aren't good or bad, they're just elements. It's how they relate to each other that makes the song great. After all, you could write a really amazing melody in one song, but then put it in another song and it sounds all out of place because it's in a different key, has a different tempo, and nothing seems to fit right. It's not that the first melody is wrong, it's just that it doesn't relate to the things in the other melody the right way. So now that you've seen how individual elements can relate to each other and build larger patterns, what kind of elements grab your attention? Cool chord progressions, interesting melodies, fast rhythms or slow? And how can you piece those elements together to tell the story that you want to tell?